The newly elected president of Syria was cutting off the heads of his enemies not long ago when he was an Al-Qaeda leader. Now he wears a nice suit, and according to President Trump, he's a good-looking guy. Trump wants to make a deal with him. Meanwhile, this president is killing Christians, Druze, Alawites, and other enemies in Syria. And Trump wants to make a peace deal with this guy? Yikes. I have a follow-up question to what you suggested. Like you said, the president of Syria, who was an Al-Qaeda terrorist and goes by a different name now, but there's pictures of him holding severed heads in his hand. I mean, he was a ferocious killer. And as President Trump has said, oh yeah, he's a good-looking guy in a nice suit. You know, to me, on a bigger scale, it's like, oh, that Hitler guy, he dresses nice. Some of the things that we say as a country just don't make sense to me. The Palestinian Authority has just passed out millions of dollars to the murderers who were released from Israeli prisons for committing mass murder and were exchanged for hostages that were just civilians on their farms on October 7th. Millions and millions was passed out to these people, and it's receiving very, very little publicity here. And yet, Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority, as you said, has a totally different speech in Arabic, no difference than the president of Syria has a different speech in Arabic. In Israel, how do you deal with what obviously are, we say in English, talking out of two sides of the same mouth? One speech in English, one speech in Arabic. One is conciliatory, we want peace. The other one is, we can't wait to kill all the Jews. How do you make deals with people like that where you know, at best, a treaty to them is nothing more than a hudna, and our audience knows that's just a temporary cessation of violence under Sharia teachings, and you stop fighting until you get strong enough, and then you can wipe out the Jews when you get more arms or more men or more leverage or so on. How do you make agreements with people like that who, in Arabic, whether it's Qatar, whether it's Syria, whether it's Hezbollah in southern Lebanon or the Palestinian Authority, all promise to kill all the Jews and wipe out Israel? I don't get it.
Yeah, listen, it's very tough, but on the other hand, it's almost impossible to be alone in the Middle East without any kind of backing from other nations. So the good thing about all these Muslim radical regimes and organizations is that more than hating the Jews, they are fighting for their own survival because they have internal enemies of their own. So al-Julani's regime in Syria, okay, as much as he hates Israel, the Jewish people, and by the way, al-Julani means Golani, the Golan Heights. So that's his name. But he changed his name now to Ashara, which means something else, to be more acceptable to the West. But okay, just getting back to the topic. So they are fighting for survival. So their first priority is to survive internally in their countries. So that gives Israel the opportunity to, behind the scenes, have agreements that will back our security and their security, at least for the time being. Okay, that's the best that we can do. You know, manage this crisis that is in front of us for now, and then prepare for the next confrontation, which will happen, which will come, and we know that because we're dealing with people that their ultimate goal is to destroy Israel. But in the meantime, al-Julani, the leader of Syria, is trying to survive. I mean, he's basically 2 weeks away from another civil war in Syria if he doesn't play his cards right, if he doesn't get support from Turkey, from the United States, and from Israel. But we're no fools to this situation because we know what he's capable of. He just carried out a massacre on the first 2 weeks of assuming the role as president against the Druze minority community in El Suwaida, which many of these Druze have family members in Israel. So that's why Israel stepped in to help defend the Druze against the al-Julani forces of Syria. He also carried out attacks against Christian minorities in the country, against Alawites. Basically, every time a new dictator is taking its position, the minorities are the ones who suffer. So this is a very, very tough situation. It's making deals with the bad guys, but we know that this is just to overcome the close proximity challenges that we have in this region. And we don't believe that they're going to be our best friends for life, sadly. unless a change of heart will happen, and God can make that happen. And that's my prayer, that they will receive God and start loving the people of Israel. It's possible, but in the meantime, we need to be strong again.